So, you're thinking about moving to New Orleans. Well, these are all the reasons we think you'll love it here.
I'm Juanita Walmsley.
And I'm Jason Edwards.
With RETV powered by EXP, and whether you're coming or going, we want to bring you home.
Reach out to us with the link down below.
Ooh. Okay, so number one, this is a real estate show, so we're just gonna start with the big one.
Architecture!
Dun, da, da, da. It's amazing. You're never gonna get bored here, whether it's a Greek revival, Queen Anne,
A shotgun, cottage.
Creole cottage. Yes, it's just beauty after beauty and history galore. The houses, I don't know, I think Sherwin-Williams probably makes all of their money in New Orleans because the houses, this isn't no HOA type neighborhood, okay? Like, you have color and you have authenticity and uniqueness and just history. I mean, you can literally walk down a brick road in New Orleans and really just visualize what used to happen here. And from French to Spanish, Creole, it's just incredible.
There's so many historic homes too that have little placards and you can read the history of the home, and it's just a really incredible city to walk through and look at all the different styles, and not necessarily architecture, but just style of homes. One thing that's unique is there are a lot of duplexes. So if you're moving to the city and you want a house hack and live in one and rent out the other side, or you're just looking for rentals, it's a great city for that too. There's a lot of multifamily there. And some people take former duplexes and convert them into a big, giant single-family house. So you'll find a mix of both, and it's just really cool to see what people do with those homes.
That's very true. I mean, you could be renting an apartment, but it was actually an old historical mansion, you know, and so that's really fun. And because of that, you can find very unique spaces. New Orleans, they just make it work. They're gonna throw in a washer and a dryer for you and add your bathroom and your little kitchen, you know, and it's all triangular. And
if you're coming from a place that has basements, New Orleans does not have basements.
Right. Because
obviously we're below sea level and get a lot of water.
Tiny submarine basement.
Yeah, so you get some water in there. But there are some really big, large homes. There's some small shotgun homes. Really just a good mix of different types of homes. So and just as she said, walking through the city is so beautiful. Seeing all the different types of architecture, you'll never get enough of it.
Right, and you know, the history, which is on the list, and it coincides with this, but you know, back then, they had a lot more time to really get really intricate and, you know, just ornate design that you'll see. It's just, there's nowhere else on earth like it. Okay, number two, we talked about in this video where New Orleans is a really friendly city, and we'll get to that, but not so car friendly. But because of that, to make up for it, transportation is easy.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to get around the city. Not only is it extremely walkable, there's a lot of places that you can walk to and find restaurants and shopping centers and all mixed in with the neighborhoods, but there are also a lot of other ways to get around if you need to go a little farther.
Yeah, we've got, you know, the bus, we have the streetcar, Uber, Lyft is really heavy. We recommend that too as well. If you're going into the quarter, you don't want to drive into the quarter, watch that video. Yeah, so, and walkability. Walkability is one of the greatest perks of living in New Orleans. You don't really have to leave your neighborhood. But the one thing about walkability is the New Orleans heat. You know, if we had Californian weather, we would be the greatest place on earth. Because it is really just that walkable and beautiful, you know, and social.
Yeah, bike travel is very common too. It's not necessarily a great bike city in that there aren't a lot of bike lanes that are safe to ride in, but you'll still find a lot of people finding their own path and riding their bikes all through the neighborhood. So you can see that as a negative if you're driving, but if you like to just get out there and explore the city on a bike, it's a great place to do it.
Can I say something about that? We do have bike paths, okay? We have a bike path on St. Charles that, you know, you're more than welcome to use, and it's not so bad on St. Charles. But for some reason, on Magazine, we have a slight one, right? the magazine is not the place to ride your bike, okay? It's just not. Take camp or take something else. Like, it's your life on the line, and the street parking, you know, you open your door and then boop. Like, can you just imagine? Like, I don't know.
You'll find out when you get here. If you do like to ride a bike, there are some precautions you need to take. Some of these, as we talked about, narrow streets, so there's people parking. And then if you're trying to weave your bike in and out, somebody opens the door. We've had it happen to friends where they clip them or knock them over completely. So just be careful where you're going. But there are also some really nice, quiet neighborhoods you can ride your bike around to and really explore the city.
Yes, and thank you for riding your bike, you know, and walking, even walking, you have to be careful because the roads are, you know, the sidewalks are bumpy and clumpy. Don't wear your heels. Like, we always know if you're a tourist, if you're walking around in your heels on a New Orleans street. But one thing, scooters. Scooters is you can start your own little scooter gang around here. It's a great way to get around.
Yeah.
Which brings us, we mentioned it, to New Orleans being a social city, which I'm going to go ahead and throw in there, a single city. It's a great place to be single. New Orleans isn't, you know, it's not the suburbs. It's a great place to bring your family and raise your family. But if you're single, you know, you just fit in here. I mean, there's so much to do, which obviously that's on the list. But because we're so friendly and so social, you're going to know your neighbors. Like, you're going to speak. Whether you like them or not, you're going to know them, okay? And then there's the neighborhood watering holes, if you're into that. But restaurants and just working and nightlife, which is definitely on the list. But New Orleans is so social. Yeah. You might think that's a con because, you know, like, you'll be in the grocery store and it's social. So it's going to take you a while to get checked out. But, I mean, other than that, I think it's a great place for singles.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where a neighborhood will kind of shut down and have a lot of musicians come out and play, and all the neighborhood congregates and nobody complains about the noise. And it's just a fun, interactive city like that. And you'll also see during times of struggle, like after a hurricane or after a big storm or things, that city really sticks together and somebody starts cooking a jambalaya or crawfish or sandwiches or something, and everyone gets fed. And so you're not going to go hungry, definitely, in New Orleans.
And they'll clean out your fridge too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're evacuating and you want to leave a key behind, you know, your neighbors really pull through for you. So
yeah,
it's fantastic.
Once you move here, make sure you get your neighbors' contact information, because you never want to evacuate and then not have any way to check on your property and things like that. And your neighbors will be, if they're back in town, they'll be more than happy to go check it out for you. Yeah,
for sure. So, which brings us to nightlife. Of course, social city, you know that about New Orleans, right? But it's so fun. Look, if you're bored in New Orleans, you are a boring person. It is your fault. And you don't have to be a crazy partier, right? Like, we're not at all, but there's still so much to do. There's history, there's museums. There is a parade I remember I walked outside one time and there was a parade going on, and I was like, what's going on? And someone was like, it's Tuesday, you know? And it's just, that's the way it is. Like, we celebrate life. We celebrate everything here. And so, you know, whatever kind of person you are, just know that like, there's always going to be something going on, and usually it's out on the streets, you know, so it's free entertainment. Just get outside, you know, and meet your neighbors, right?
Yeah, like she said, I mean, if you are into partying, there's plenty of places to do that. If you've ever visited for tourism, you already know that. But there are also a lot of local neighborhood functions and things going on that don't require that. If you just like to get around people, but you don't want to do the crazy partying, you'll find that in a lot of the family neighborhoods as well.
And, you know, to go along with nightlife, the music scene is just incredible. I mean, real live musicians, you know, from every genre that you can think of. People are real, true artists here, and it's just amazing. The art is everywhere. Culture is everywhere. And New Orleans is my favorite restaurant. Okay, which brings us to food. Like, oh my God. And it's not just Cajun food. You know, we grew up with it, so we don't eat that much Cajun food. Like, I think that, you know, everybody thinks Louisianians are we Louisianians?
I think so.
I've never really said that. I think everybody thinks that we're like the water boy, right? Like the movie with Adam Sandler,
sorry.
like we eat snake and stuff, and some people I guess too. But but you can get all kinds of food because of the tourism, because of, you know, everything going on in New Orleans. Any type of food you want, you know, just walking down the street and they're all just stacked there close together. And it's great for small businesses. It's not like New Orleans is full of like these big franchisee, big box, you know, restaurants and stores. Like we have local small businesses here, and that's what makes it really fantastic and authentic and great.
Yeah, there are a few chain restaurants and things like that, but for the most part, you'll find that people open up a shop, it does well, they open up another shop, so it's a lot of local-owned businesses, which I love,
Right.
and just some incredible chefs. A lot of people you see on TV even have down in the quarter have great, really well-known restaurants. You know, Emerald Lagasse is one famous one, but there's also a lot of people John Besh, other places, other people that you've probably seen on your favorite competition cooking show that have now opened a restaurant in New Orleans too.
Yeah, and I mean, look, if you're coming to New Orleans, you're thinking about moving here, you are already a foodie probably. You probably know more than us. So,
Right.
yeah, welcome in and eat up. There's a downside, okay? There is such a thing that I like to call the Nola 15. Just be prepared for that. You know, you're going to go crazy. You want to try it all out, and yeah, just pace yourself, okay?
And on that topic, there are a lot of places that are popping up that are vegan restaurants and have great salads and smoothies. And so it isn't all just deep fried food and everything's fried. There are a lot of really great healthy restaurants that are opening up as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which also brings us to healthy lifestyle living can absolutely be done in New Orleans. And that brings us to parks and nature. New Orleans has some of the most beautiful parks. Audubon Park is fantastic, located uptown. There is City Park in Mid-City. It's fantastic. And there's a museum inside of City Park. And City Park kind of is a museum of its own. Just so much art that you can see. But Audubon Park, they have the zoo, they have a horse stable, they have, on the opposite side is something that we call the Fly, and it's just, you know, it's the river. That's what it is. And they have a lot of sports complexes out there. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
You know?
One thing about Audubon Park is we'd go walking on the weekends and there would be musicians out there playing, like jazz musicians out there in the park playing, and a small crowd around them drinking their morning coffee. And so it's just a really cool, there are houses around there that are beautiful homes that are right in the park and on the park. But it's a beautiful, huge walking trail. There are geese and ducks and everything that just flock to that. Swans, yeah. So it's just a really cool
oak trees. The oak trees. I mean, it's so amazing. You should visit the Tree of Life. It's on the other side next to the horse stables. I think there are 2 oak trees that have grown together, that grown into each other. It's just, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And in City Park, they have something, I can't remember the exact name of it, but during the holidays, they light up the entire park with Christmas lights, and it's just such a beautiful place to go and tour. You can drive through sometimes, or there's also a way you can walk through. During the pandemic, they had you drive through, but now I think they've opened it back up. So definitely check that out. And they have a place in the park, in City Park, that you can get your beignets. So so it's just a really cool experience, something you should do. Mini golf, all kinds of stuff out there. So go check it out.
Yeah, putt-putt.
Yeah.
It's fun. Really good at putt-putt. So this one is big for us, and we absolutely love it. It's diversity. So of course, with New Orleans being so historical and having so much culture, you know, there is a lot of diversity in New Orleans, and it just adds to the flavor. It adds to everyone. We are gumbo, right? We're just this big melting pot. And, you know, I don't know. I don't particularly love living somewhere where everyone is the same thing, you know, that you can just come to New Orleans and be your authentic self. You can be your real self. There is no right or wrong with it. You know, it's like New Orleans, it's not fashion forward and creating this high, you know, sophisticated image. Like, people are very down to earth and weird and strange, or just very, very, you know, straight and normal. You know what I mean? But if that's who you are, you never feel like you have to, hit the status quo here, or, it's just, you're going to see things in New Orleans that you will never see anywhere else. And, sometimes you just have to think like, did I really just see that?
Yeah. And you'll see, as we talked about with the community and with the neighbors and just how friendly people are, that there'll be just a huge music festival and all kinds of people from all different walks of life partying together and just having a good time and eating and sharing. And it's just a really fun city to meet people that have different perspectives, different lives, and just a really great place to merge all of our ideas and thoughts together and meet some great people.
Yeah, which is why a throwback, it makes it a great city for singles. Because, if you move somewhere, you're kind of like, okay, this is the pick, but people are coming and going all the time in New Orleans, right? So you just get to meet a lot of people who don't live in New Orleans, and just people who are natives and, people just like you. It's fantastic. You can really come here, be yourself, and the culture and diversity just adds to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So also, regular education didn't make the list of, pros for New Orleans, although we do have a lot of private schools in New Orleans, and asking someone what high school they went to is a thing in New Orleans. But colleges did make the list. We have some great colleges, and we have like 10 colleges,
yeah, maybe more,
in New Orleans. But Loyola, Tulane, Xavier, there's a lot of great higher
UNO.
Education. UNO, yeah. Mm-hmm. Which UNO is a great film school, which brings us to another one that we have film in New Orleans. It's booming. It has been booming. A lot of incredible projects have been filmed in New Orleans with local talent.
Yeah. Yeah, we come from the film and television industry as well, so it's such a great city to not only have crew and cast come and stay there for a few months, and they just love being in New Orleans, but also since, as we talked about, the architecture and just a lot of different places that you can film, it's brought a lot of film and television projects that you've probably watched on the big screen in your local theater have probably been filmed there. Even if it looks like Los Angeles or New York, it may have been filmed right here in New Orleans.
Yeah. But arts and entertainment is huge, and I'm sure you know that, but just local art, I think in a lot of places people rely heavily on traveling acts coming through and regional theater and this and that, but New Orleans is just the arts and cultural center. There's so much going on, and art is everywhere that it's just a part of everyday life. You don't have to go travel to a museum to see art. Like, local artists are everywhere, and they're always creating, and the spirit of the city just makes you so creative. It's just the vibe of it all. Yeah,
we love it, and so glad that the film and television industry has been there. It's really driven the local economy, but as you said, music, art, you'll walk through Jackson Square and see beautiful artists just making a painting right there in front of you. It's just the only city I've been to that has that much art to deliver, with just really talented local artists.
Yeah, and even the homes, the homes are art.
That's true.
Obviously we think that homes are art, but it's true. It just adds to the city. There's so much color, there's so much life here, and we live in full color here, and it's not necessarily a place where you go to these highfalutin museums, and you see the world's best art. It's just like art, you live by artists, you live with artists, and it's everywhere. It is everywhere. It's very rare to see like a bridge that doesn't have a mural or something.
Mural.
Mural?
Mural.
Mural.
Mural. Yep.
Mural. Rural, or what is it? Rural jur.
Rural jur.
Rural jur. Mural. No, it's mural, right? Anyway.
Who knows? Comment below and let us know.
Mardi Gras! So this one actually made our con list because some people just aren't into Mardi Gras that much,
Yeah, I love the spirit of it. I love king cake for sure. And
I don't
that's
like
something-
granulated sugar. I like some king cake. I don't like granulated sugar. Go on.
I
It's
just
not about me.
personally don't love large crowds, especially if you get to a place where you can't use the restroom, excuse me, but it's just, you get confined and that. Some people love it, not my thing, but for those of you who do love it, you are going to love actually living in the city during Mardi Gras because it is a constant week-long party. There's always events all day long, all different parts of the city. You'll see massive, beautiful, what are they called?
Floats?
Floats, thank you. Massive, beautiful floats going down the street with probably some celebrities that you've always wanted to see as the king or queen of the float.
And balls, Mardi Gras balls, if you like to get dressed up and have a glam time. I love the Muses Parade personally,
They
but
throw out little
shoes.
yeah.
Little,
high heel
what's
shoes.
that word? If you haven't been, you have to experience it, and do it and do it right. My favorite way to Mardi Gras is to find a balcony. Find a balcony to where you can look out and you can be the one throwing beads, unless you like to catch them. But you can throw the beads, but most importantly, you don't have to be inside the chaos. You can just be there looking over the chaos, safe and sound, having a good time. That's how I like to Mardi Gras, with friends, of course. But like we said, just try it out if you've never been. And if Mardi Gras shouldn't be on your list as a pro, and it is on a con, it is a con for you, just remember, it's a great time to rent out your place and go on a family vacation or a solo vacation.
That's right.
Okay, here's a big plus, maybe for you, but for a lot of us. And it's football! The Saints! Who dat? So you might not be a football fan, but when you move to New Orleans, that's okay, because then you'll just instantly be put in with all of us Saints fans. Now, it might be more of a problem if you are a football fan and you're not a Saints fan. That can get a little, you're gonna feel really left out. But if you're a diehard fan, then at least we'll have that in common, because if you're a Saints fan, you need to be a diehard fan,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Saints football spirit, and it's so fun. And fall is amazing to be in New Orleans in fall. It's just so great.
And the stadium is really close to the quarter, so you'll find a lot of tourists will come in, they'll go to a game, they'll go roam the streets after the games. It gets really downtown during a game. It gets really crazy. So it's fun if you like to be in that environment and go to a game. I also have the Pelicans, obviously. So if you're an NBA fan, that's really cool games to go to as well.
Yeah, we haven't built that up yet. But if you like basketball, you can come and watch your favorite team. It doesn't have to be the Pelicans just yet. But it's still really fun. And just going out to your local bar or a restaurant and watching the game, or going over to people's homes, and watching the game is a big thing. It's really fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So last but not least, this might be a pro, this might be a con, but New Orleans is obviously known for its tourism. So the reason that this is a pro is because, you might be you might be happy about moving to New Orleans, but you might be really sad about leaving your friends and your family behind. But rest assured that when you move to New Orleans, you are going to see your friends and family a lot more than you ever probably even wanted to. They'll be like, oh, I think we're going to come for Thanksgiving and Christmas and maybe New Year's.
So you better get a couch that folds out to a bed. You better get some air mattresses, futons. You're going to have friends that want to crash all over your place. So.
Right. They'll sleep in your chimney, But, that's a good thing too, right? We're joking, but it's true. I mean, New Orleans you're never going to be like, oh, I moved to Kansas, and no offense, I'm sure Kansas is awesome, but, people will come and visit you. They will stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
And you'll be able to show them a great time, and they can entertain themselves too. If you've got to go work, they'll be fine.
Yeah, there's plenty, as we've already talked about, plenty of things to do while you're at work for your friends or family that are in town. Just get them on a streetcar and it'll take them all around the city.
So those are just a few reasons why you are going to love living and loving in Nola. Nola, living and loving. So those are just a few reasons why you are going to love being a New Orleanian. Here at the Big Easy, we really do take it easy. So we want to help you make your big move to the Big Easy easy.
That's right. You can call, email, or text us with the link down below.
You know how you say goodbye in New Orleans? You don't.
Ah!